The great chamber of the Korvax High Council was filled with laughter. 7 alien species sat around the massive stone table, their representatives trading amused glances as they watched. The human ambassador on the holographic screen, let me be perfectly clear. Ambassador Sarah Chen said, her voice calm and steady. Earth has drawn its final line. The neutral zone between our territories must remain untouched. Any military vessel that crosses into human space will be considered an act of war. And I promise you this, if you choose war, you will face complete destruction. High Commander Vexer of the Korvax Empire leaned back in his chair, his gray skin stretched over sharp bones, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence. He had conquered 30 star systems in his lifetime. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds, and now this small, soft creature from a tiny blue planet dared to threaten him. Ambassador Chen Vexer said, his deep voice echoing through the chamber, your species has been traveling among the stars for barely 200 years. The Korvax Empire has ruled for 10,000. Do you truly believe your warning frightens us? Sarah Chen did not flinch. I did not come here to frighten you, High Commander. I came here to inform you. What you do with this information is your choice, but understand this. Earth does not make empty threats. We have given warnings before, and they were ignored. Those who ignored them no longer exist. The representatives of the other 6 species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They remembered the Voran incident from 50 years ago. A small Voran raiding fleet had attacked a human colony, killing 3,000 civilians. Earth had responded by reducing every Voran military base to ash within 72 hours. The Voran species now lived as refugees scattered across the galaxy. Their home world, burned and lifeless rock, but Vexer only smiled. The Vorans were weak. They were a minor species with outdated technology. The Korvax Empire controls the largest military force in the known galaxy. Your little demonstration against them means nothing to us. Sarah Chen nodded slowly. Then we have nothing more to discuss. This warning has been delivered. What happens next is on your conscience, not mine. The holographic image flickered and disappeared. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Vexer began to laugh again, and the other representatives joined him, though some of their laughs seemed forced. Humans, Vexer said, shaking his head, such dramatic creatures. They have spirit. I will give them that, but spirit alone does not win wars. General Thax, the military advisor of the Korvax Empire, leaned forward. High Commander, perhaps we should consider their warning. Our intelligence reports suggest that humans have been building something in their home system. Something large. We have been unable to determine what it is. Vexer waved his hand dismissively. It is probably another one of their cultural monuments. Humans are obsessed with building statues and museums. They are a sentimental species, but sir, enough. Thanks, I have made my decision. The human colonies in the outer reach are too valuable to ignore. Their worlds are rich in minerals that we need. In 3 days, our fleet will cross the neutral zone and claim those colonies for the Empire. The humans will protest. They will send angry messages, and then they will accept their new reality. They are outnumbered and outgunned. What choice will they have? 3 days later, the Korvax First Fleet assembled at the edge of the neutral zone. 500 warships, each one the size of a small moon, floated in perfect formation. Admiral Crest stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars ahead. His communication officer turned to him. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through." The screen flickered and a new face appeared. It was not Ambassador Chen this time. It was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore the uniform of Earth's United Defense Force. "This is Fleet Admiral James Morrison of the Earth Defense Command," the man said. "You are about to cross into human sovereign space. This is your final warning. Turn back now or face the consequences." Admiral Crest smiled. "Human, I have 500 warships under my command. Your entire fleet numbers less than 200. You cannot stop us. I am not asking you to count our ships, Admiral. I am asking you to make a choice. Turn back and live, continue forward and die. It is that simple." Crest laughed. "Your species has always had more courage than sense. Very well, we will see whose threats are empty." He cut the transmission and turned to his navigation officer. "Take us across." The massive fleet began to move. 500 warships crossed the invisible line that separated Korvax territory from human space. For a moment, nothing happened. The stars remained silent. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Then Admiral Crest noticed something strange. A light was appearing in the distance far ahead of them. It was small at first, just a tiny point of brightness, but it was growing larger and larger and larger. "What is that?" Crest demanded. His sensor officer stared at his instruments with wide eyes. "Sir, I am detecting an energy signature. It is unlike anything in our database. The power output is impossible. No ship could generate that much energy." "How much energy?" The officer looked up, his face pale. "Enough to power a star, sir." The light continued to grow, and for the first time in his long military career, Admiral Crest felt something cold settle in his stomach. It was an emotion he had not experienced in many years. It was fear on Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Fleet Admiral Morrison stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed a different view of the Korvax fleet. He watched the alien ships continue their advance, watched them cross deeper into human space. Young officer approached him. "Sir, the Korvax fleet has crossed the final threshold. They are now within range." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about all the warnings they had given, all the chances they had offered, and he thought about what was about to happen, the death and destruction that could have been avoided. If only the Korvax had listened. They made their choice, he said quietly. Then he opened his eyes and spoke in a clear, firm voice. "Activate the Prometheus array across human space on 1,000 hidden stations." Ancient machines began to wake up, and in the darkness between the stars, something terrible started to move. Admiral Crest watched the light grow brighter. It filled the entire view screen now, a brilliant white glow that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. His officers were shouting reports, but he could barely hear them over the alarm sirens that had begun to wail throughout the ship. "Shields at maximum," he ordered. "All ships defensive formation." The 500 warships of the Korvax First Fleet began to regroup. They had trained for every possible battle scenario. They had prepared for enemy fleets, for asteroid ambushes, for planetary defenses, but they had not prepared for this. The light suddenly split into Thousands of smaller beams, each beam moved with impossible speed, cutting through space like bright needles. Before Crest could give another order, the beam struck the first wave of ships. Simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris. The massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, were simply gone, erased from existence as if they had never been there at all. What is happening? Crest screamed. What is this weapon? His sensor officer was crying. Actual tears ran down his gray face. Sir, we have lost contact with 200 ships. They are just gone. The energy beams are cutting through our shields like they do not exist. Another wave of light swept through the fleet. More ships disappeared. Krez watched the display screen as the number of active vessels dropped. 400, 300, 200, retreat. He finally ordered all ships retreat to Korvax space. Get us out of here. But the beams were faster than their engines. Another wave struck. Another 100 ships vanished. The flagship shook as a beam passed close by, barely missing them. The lights on the bridge flickered. We cannot outrun it, sir, the navigation officer said. The weapon has us surrounded. Crest felt his hearts pounding in his chest. All four of them were beating so fast he thought they might burst. He had led this fleet with such confidence. He had laughed at the human warning, and now his entire force was being destroyed in minutes. Send a message to High Command, he said. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the humans have a weapon unlike anything we have ever seen. Tell them the light consumed his ship before he could finish. Admiral Crest and his crew joined the thousands of Korvax soldiers who had already died that day. In less than 10 minutes, the entire First Fleet was gone. Not a single ship survived. On the Korvax home world, High Commander Vexer received the news in silence. He sat alone in his chambers, staring at the report that had arrived just before the fleet's final transmission cut out. 500 warships, millions of soldiers gone in minutes. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible, but the evidence was clear. Long-range sensors had detected the attack. They had recorded the energy signatures of the human weapon. The data was incomplete. The weapon was so powerful that it had overwhelmed the sensors, but what they had captured was enough to confirm the terrible truth. The humans had not been bluffing. An emergency meeting of the High Council was called. The representatives of the 7 species gathered once again in the great chamber, but there was no laughter. This time, their faces were pale and frightened. Several of them looked like they had not slept since receiving the news. We must surrender, said Representative Thalari Collective. His small insect-like body trembled as he spoke. We cannot fight a weapon like this. We must ask for peace before they turn it on our home worlds. Surrender. Vexer's voice was sharp. The Korvax Empire does not surrender. We have ruled this region of space for 10,000 years. We will not bow to these primitive newcomers. Primitive. TH's voice rose to a screech. They destroyed 500 warships. In 10 minutes, their weapon generates more power than a star. What part of this is primitive? General Thax stepped forward. High Commander, our scientists have been analyzing the weapon's energy signature. They believe it uses a form of technology we have never encountered before. It seems to tap directly into subspace, drawing unlimited power from dimensions beyond our own. Then we must find a way to counter it, Vexer said. We have the resources of 7 species. At our command, surely we can develop a defense with respect, sir, that could take decades, perhaps centuries. In the meantime, the humans could destroy us whenever they choose. Vexor slammed his fist on the table. Then we will strike. First, we will launch a surprise attack on Earth before they can use their weapon again. We will destroy their home world and end this threat forever. Chamber fell silent. Every representative knew what Vexor was suggesting. A direct attack on Earth would mean total war, and if it failed, the humans will see us coming, Thax said. Quietly, their sensors are advanced. They will have time to activate their weapon, not if we use the entire combined fleet, Vexor replied. Every ship from all 7 species attacking from multiple directions at once. We overwhelm them with numbers. Even their weapon cannot destroy thousands of ships instantly. You do not know that. I know that we cannot simply wait for them to come for us. The humans issued their warning. They drew their line and we crossed it. Do you think they will forget this? Do you think they will forgive? Vexor looked around the table at the frightened faces. We have started a war. Our only choice now is to win it. One by one, the representatives nodded. They were afraid, terrified, even, but they were also proud. Their species had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. They would not give up that dominance without a fight. Begin the assembly, Vexor ordered. Call every ship to the gathering point. In 30 days we will launch the largest military operation in galactic history, and we will end the human threat once and for all on Earth. Fleet Admiral Morrison received reports of the alien mobilization. Thousands of ships were gathering. The entire military might of 7 species was preparing to attack. The scale was beyond anything humanity had ever faced. He called his own commanders to a meeting in the war room. Beneath the mountains, they stood around a holographic display that showed the enemy fleet growing larger by the day. They are coming for us, Morrison said. All of them, everything they have. General Maria Santos studied the display with calm eyes. The Prometheus array cannot fire again for another 60 days. The power cells need time to recharge. I know. So we will have to fight them the old-fashioned way. Morrison nodded. Activate Protocol Omega. Wake up the reserve fleets. Open the weapons vaults on Luna and Mars and send a message to every human colony in the galaxy. He paused, looking at the faces of his officers. They were determined, unafraid. Good. Tell them that Earth has been threatened. Tell them that aliens are coming to destroy our home world. He straightened his shoulders. And tell them that humanity does not run. We do not hide. We do not surrender. When someone threatens our home, we stand and fight. The message went out across human space, and from every colony, every outpost, every hidden base, the response came. Back. We are coming. The humans had spent 200 years preparing for this moment. They had hoped it would never arrive. They had issued warnings and drawn lines and given their enemies every chance to walk away, but their enemies had not listened, and now the galaxy would learn why humanity was feared. The war for Earth had begun. Alien armada gathered at the edge of Earth's solar system. 6,000 warships from 7 different species, painted in the colors of their empires and armed with the most powerful weapons their civilizations could build. They formed a wall of metal and fire that stretched Across millions of HFY, Commander Vexor stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching the display screens with satisfaction. This was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. No enemy had ever survived against such numbers. The humans had their strange weapon, but it would not save them today. All ships report ready. General Thax announced, "We can begin the assault on your command." Vexor nodded. "What of the human fleet?" "Our scouts report approximately 800 vessels defending Earth. They are positioned in a sphere around their planet. 800 against 6,000. Vexor smiled. The humans were brave. He would give them that. Brave and foolish. Begin the attack. Alien armada surged forward. Thousands of engines fired at once, pushing the massive fleet toward Earth. The journey would take several hours at combat speed, enough time for the humans to see their death approaching. Admiral Morrison watched the enemy advance from his command station on Mars. The red planet had been converted into a military fortress over the past century, its surface covered with weapons, platforms and shield generators. It would be the first line of defense. Contact in 4 hours, his tactical officer reported. The enemy fleet is maintaining standard attack formation. No signs of unusual weapons or tactics. Morrison studied the holographic display. The alien fleet was huge, yes, but it was also predictable. They were using the same tactics that had worked against countless other species. Overwhelming force, direct assault, superior numbers. They had no reason to change what had always worked before, but they had never fought humans before. Not really. Begin Phase 1. Morrison ordered. Wake up the sleeping giants throughout the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Ancient machines received the signal. They had been dormant for 50 years, hidden among the rocks and debris, waiting for this moment. Now they awoke. The asteroids began to move. What had appeared to be ordinary chunks of rock revealed themselves to be massive automated weapons platforms, thousands of them. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The alien fleet detected the movement too late. The first volley of missiles struck them before they could raise their shields. Hundreds of ships exploded in bright flowers of fire. The neat formation began to break apart as captains scrambled to respond to the unexpected attack. What is this? Vexor demanded. Where did these weapons come from? They were hidden, sir, Thax replied, his voice shaking. Hidden in the asteroids. We never detected them. Destroy them. All ships target those platforms. The alien fleet redirected its firepower toward the asteroid. Weapons. They managed to destroy many of them, but the damage had been done. Nearly 500 ships were gone before they had even reached Mars. Vexor steadied himself. 500 ships was a significant loss, but he still had over 5,000 more than enough to crush the human resistance. Continue the advance. Do not let them slow us down. The fleet pushed forward, passing through the debris field left by the destroyed platforms. They approached Mars, ready to bypass the red planet and continue to Earth. But another surprise was waiting for them. Mars itself began to fire across the planet's surface. Enormous weapons installations opened fire. Energy beams capable of cutting through mountains sliced into the alien fleet. Ships that approached too close were caught in gravity wells, pulled down toward the planet where automated defense systems tore them apart. They have turned the entire planet into a weapon. Thax shouted, "This is not possible. How could they hide something this large?" They had not hidden it, Morrison knew. They had built it openly in plain sight, but called it something else: mining, equipment, research stations, industrial facilities. The aliens had seen what they expected to see. They had not bothered to look closer. The battle around Mars lasted for 2 hours. The alien fleet lost another 1,000 ships before they managed to push past the red planet's defenses. Their formation was broken now, their confidence shaken, but still they came. As they approached Earth, they finally saw the human fleet clearly, 800 ships, just as the scouts had reported, small compared to the alien armada, almost pathetic. But something was wrong, sir, Thax said slowly. Those ships, they do not match anything in our database. Vexor looked at the display. The human vessels were sleek and dark, shaped like arrows pointing toward the enemy. They were smaller than Korvax warships, but their energy signatures were enormous. Each one generated more power than a dozen alien vessels combined. What are they? Vexor asked. Unknown, sir. We have never seen human ships like this before. The human fleet began to move. They accelerated at speeds that should have been impossible, darting through space like fish through water. They did not form traditional battle lines. Instead, they split into hundreds of small groups, each one moving independently. Target the lead ships, Vexor ordered. Destroy them before they can attack. Alien fleet opened fire, thousands of weapons discharged at once, sending a wall of energy toward the approaching humans. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. The human ships dodged it. They twisted and spun, slipping through the gaps in the enemy fire as if they could see every shot before it was fired. They moved together like a single organism, each ship supporting the others, covering each other's weaknesses, and then they began to fire back. Morrison watched the battle unfold with quiet satisfaction. The new Valkyrie-class ships were performing even better than expected. Their pilots were the best humanity had to offer, trained from childhood for exactly this kind of combat. In their weapons, the aliens had never seen focused plasma cannons before. They had never faced weapons that could punch through their shields like paper. They had never fought an enemy that refused to stay still, that attacked from every direction at once, that seemed to know exactly where they would be before they got there. Human pilots had a gift that the aliens could not understand. They called it intuition, instinct, the ability to feel the flow of battle in their bones. The aliens relied on logic and calculation. Humans relied on something deeper. Within an hour, the alien fleet had lost another 2,000 ships. They were still attacking, still pushing forward, but their advance had slowed. The human ships were everywhere, striking and retreating, never giving the enemy a clear target. On his flagship, Vexor watched the disaster unfold. He had expected losses. Yes, he had expected resistance, but not like this. Not humans that fought like demons, whose ships moved like ghosts, whose weapons cut through his fleet like fire through dry grass. We must retreat, said. We have lost half our force. If we continue, we will be destroyed completely. Vexor's hands gripped the arms of his chair. Every instinct told him to fight, to push forward, to claim victory through sheer determination. But the numbers did not lie. His fleet was Dying, sound the retreat, he said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. All ships withdraw to the edge of the system. The alien armada began to pull back. The human ships let them go, maintaining a defensive formation around Earth. They did not pursue. They did not need to. High Commander Vexor had brought the largest fleet in galactic history to destroy Earth, and Earth had destroyed him instead. The war was far from over, but the galaxy had just learned its first lesson about humanity. When humans say they will fight, they mean it, and they fight like nothing the universe has ever seen. The remains of the alien armada limped back to Korvac space. Of the 6,000 ships that had set out to destroy Earth, fewer than 2,000 returned. The others floated as debris in the cold darkness between the stars, monuments to the greatest military defeat in galactic history. High Commander Vexor did not speak for 3 days. After the retreat, he sat alone in his chambers, staring at the reports, trying to understand what had gone wrong. He had brought overwhelming force. He had attacked with everything his coalition possessed, and it had not been enough. The humans have sent a message, General Thax said, entering the chamber on the 4th day. His voice was quiet. Defeated, they wish to discuss terms. Terms? Vexor almost laughed. A week ago, he had dreamed of dictating terms to the humans. Now they would dictate terms to him. What do they want? They have not said. They only requested a meeting. Ambassador Chen wishes to speak with the High Council. The meeting was held the next day. The great chamber that had once echoed with confident laughter now felt cold and empty. The representatives of the 7 species sat in silence, waiting for the human image to appear on the screen. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked exactly as she had during her last transmission, calm and composed. Only her eyes showed any change. They were harder now, like steel. Gentlemen, she said, I believe I warned you. No one responded. What could they say? Earth has suffered no damage, Chen continued. Our fleet remains intact. The Prometheus array will be fully recharged in 12 days, and we have begun mobilizing our reserve forces. She paused, letting the words sink in. You have seen what 800 of our ships can do. We have 12,000 more. 12,000. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. The alien coalition had sent their entire combined fleet to Earth. It was gone now. They had nothing left to match such numbers. What do you want from us? Vexor finally asked. His voice was hoarse, broken. That depends on you. You can surrender now and accept our terms, or you can continue fighting and watch your civilizations burn. Chen's expression did not change. We did not start this war, High Commander. You did. You ignored our warnings. You crossed our lines. You tried to destroy our home. And now you will face the consequences. What are your terms? Chen outlined them clearly. The Korvax Empire would lose all territory within 50 light years of human space. All military forces would be reduced to defensive levels only. All weapons research would be monitored by human observers, and the High Council would formally acknowledge human sovereignty over their claimed territories. The terms were harsh for a species that had ruled for 10,000 years. They were humiliating, but they were also fair. The humans were not asking for slavery or extinction. They were asking for peace backed by power. If we refuse, Representative Thole permanently, Chen's voice carried no anger, no hatred, only certainty. We We'll start with the Korvac home world. Then we will move to the other members of your coalition one by one until there is nothing left you would commit. Genocide, Vexor asked a hint of his old defiance returning, you would destroy entire civilizations. You tried to destroy ours. Chen replied simply, we showed you mercy when you attacked. We let your fleet retreat. We gave you a chance to surrender, but that chance is fading every day you delay. Our patience grows thinner, and eventually it will run out. She leaned forward slightly. I have studied your history, High Commander. The Korvax Empire expanded through conquest. You destroyed any species that resisted you. You showed no mercy to the weak, and now you expect mercy from us. She shook her head. We are not like you. We would rather live in peace. But if peace is impossible, we will make war, and we are very, very good at it. The transmission ended. The representatives sat in stunned silence, contemplating the future they faced. On the human side, Fleet Admiral Morrison was preparing for that future. He stood in the massive shipyards orbiting Luna, watching as thousands of workers assembled the newest additions to Earth's fleet. The Prometheus array was powerful, but it was also slow, a weapon of absolute destruction that took months to recharge. They needed something faster, more flexible. General Santos joined him on the observation deck. The council is debating our terms. They will probably accept. Probably, Morrison agreed, but I want to be ready in case they refuse. You think they will? I think Vexor is too proud to surrender without another fight. He has ruled for too long. He cannot accept defeat easily. Morrison watched a new Valkyrie-class ship being fitted with its weapon systems. He will try something, some trick, some desperate attack, and when he does, we need to be ready to finish this. He was right. 2 days later, Korvac scouts detected a massive energy buildup in the Vexor system. The High Commander had not been idle during the negotiations. He had been preparing a weapon of his own. The reports described it as a planet killer, an enormous ship built in secret, capable of destroying worlds with a single shot. Vexor's final desperate gamble: if he could destroy Earth before the Prometheus array recharged, he could still win. He is insane, Santos said, reading the intelligence report. Even if he destroys Earth, we have colonies throughout the galaxy. We would hunt him down and destroy him. He is not thinking clearly, Morrison replied. Desperation does that to leaders. They convinced themselves that one bold stroke will change everything. He made his decision quickly. We cannot wait for the array. We need to stop that weapon before it reaches Earth. The human fleet launched within hours. 800 Valkyrie-class ships, joined by another 2,000 reserve vessels that had arrived from the colonies. They moved at maximum speed toward the Vexor system, racing against time. They found the planet killer in orbit around the Korvac home world. It was enormous, nearly the size of a small moon, covered with weapons and armor. Around it floated the remaining ships of the alien coalition, perhaps 800 vessels, all that remained of their once mighty armada. They know we are coming, Santos said. They are preparing to fight. Morrison studied the display. The planet killer was charging its main weapon. If it fired on Earth, billions would die. He could not allow that. All ships, he commanded, focus all fire on that weapon. Ignore the enemy fleet. Take down the planet killer at any cost. The Human fleet engaged, the space around. The Corvex's home world erupted in fire. And light, alien ships tried to block. The attack tried to buy time for their superweapon to charge, but the human pilots were too fast, too skilled. They slipped through the defensive lines, their weapons tearing into the planet killer's hull. Morrison watched as hundreds of his ships were destroyed in the assault. Each one represented thousands of human lives lost, but they pressed forward, never retreating, never hesitating. This was what they had trained for. This was why they fought. The planet killer's armor cracked under the relentless assault. Its shields failed, its weapons went offline, and then, with a final volley from a 100 ships, its reactor exploded. The blast destroyed the planet killer completely. It also destroyed the remaining alien fleet and damaged the orbital stations. Around the Corvec home world, the war was effectively over. High Commander Vexor watched from his palace as his last hope died in a ball of fire. He had gambled everything and lost. Now there was nothing left but surrender. He sent the message himself directly to Earth. He accepted all their terms. He asked only for one thing in return, that humanity spare his people. Ambassador Chen received the message. She read it twice, then forwarded it to Fleet Admiral Morrison. What do you think? She asked. Morrison looked at the words of the alien who had tried to destroy his species, the alien who had laughed at their warning, who had sent thousands of ships to burn their home world. Grant his request, Morrison said. Finally, we are not like them. We do not destroy civilizations for revenge. We protect our home, we defend our people, and when the war is over, we offer peace. He paused, then added, but make sure they remember, make sure the entire galaxy remembers what happens when you threaten Earth. This must never happen again. 100 years had passed since the Great War. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The old Corvax Empire was gone, broken into dozens of smaller states that governed themselves under human oversight. High Commander Vexor had died in prison, alone and forgotten, his name cursed by his own people for the disaster he had brought upon them. The other species of the coalition had accepted their reduced status and slowly rebuilt their civilizations under the new order, and humanity had become the dominant power in the known galaxy, not through conquest, not through domination, but through the simple fact that no one dared to challenge them. The memory of what had happened to the alien armada remained fresh in every species' mind. Parents told their children the story as a warning. Militarimi studied the battles as examples of what happened when arrogance met determination. Phrase Earth's final warning had become a common saying throughout the galaxy, used whenever someone was about to make a terrible mistake. Ambassador Sarah Chen had retired decades ago, but her name was still remembered with respect and fear. She had spoken the truth to the Corvax Council when no one else would. She had given them every chance to avoid war, and when they refused, she had watched without flinching as humanity defended itself. Her grandson, Thomas Chen, now served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Assembly. It was a body that had not existed before the war, a gathering of all known species meeting to discuss common problems and prevent future conflicts. Humanity had created it not to rule the galaxy, but to ensure that the galaxy could rule itself peacefully. Thomas stood at the podium addressing the assembly on the 100th anniversary of the war's end. Thousands of alien faces looked up at him, Korvax Vindari and dozens of other species, all gathered in one chamber. 100 years ago, he said, our peoples were at war, millions died on both sides, worlds were destroyed, civilizations nearly fell, and all of it could have been avoided. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Over the chamber, my grandmother stood, where I stand now, in a different chamber. Speaking to your ancestors, she warned them that humanity would not accept aggression. She told them that we would defend our home at any cost, and they did not believe her. A murmur ran through the crowd. The older representatives remembered those days. The younger ones had grown up hearing the stories. Today we live in peace, not because we are friends. We are still learning to trust each other, not because we are equal. We all know that humanity has the power to destroy any civilization that threatens us. We live in peace because we have all learned the same lesson. Thomas looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. War is not a game. It is not a tool for expansion or a path to glory. War is destruction. It is death. It is the end of everything we build and love. And it should always, always be the last choice, not the first. He thought of his grandmother, of the story she had told him when he was young, of how she had pleaded with the Korvax to turn back, of how she had watched the war unfold, carrying the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. Humanity did not want to fight. We wanted to explore the stars, to meet new species, to learn and grow together. When we issued our warning, we hoped, we truly hoped, that it would be enough, that the Korvax would see reason, that war could be avoided. His voice grew harder, but when our warning was ignored, we did not hesitate. We defended our home with everything we had. We showed the galaxy that humanity may be young, but we are not weak. We are not prey, and we will never allow anyone to threaten our existence. The chamber was completely silent. Not a single alien dared to speak. Today I extend that same warning to all of you, not as a threat, but as a promise. Humanity will always seek peace. We will always try to solve problems through dialogue and cooperation. We will always give warnings before we act. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes intense. But if anyone here believes that our desire for peace makes us weak, if anyone thinks that they can attack our worlds, enslave our people, or threaten our home, then they should remember what happened 100 years ago. They should remember the Korvax First Fleet. They should remember the planet killer. And they should understand that the next time someone ignores Earth's final warning, there will be no mercy. There will be no second chances. There will only be destruction, complete and absolute. He straightened up and softened his tone. We do not want that future. None of us do. So let us work together to build something better. Let us create a galaxy where warnings are never needed, where peace is the natural state of things, where every species can grow and thrive without fear. Thomas stepped back from the podium. That is humanity's true wish, not power, not dominance, just a galaxy where everyone can live in peace. He sat down, and after a long moment of silence, the chamber erupted in applause. Not the forced applause of subjects honoring a master, but the genuine appreciation of beings who recognized wisdom when they heard it. Later that evening, Thomas stood on a balcony overlooking the assembly complex. The sky was filled with stars, billions of distant suns, each one potentially hosting worlds and civilizations that had not yet been discovered. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. An old Korvax approached him. It was Representative Thorn, the grandson of General Thax, who had advised Vexer during the war. Thorn had spent his entire life trying to repair the damage his ancestors had caused. "Your speech was well received," Thorn said. His voice was soft, nothing like the harsh tones of the old Korvax. "Commanders, I meant every word. I know." Thorn looked up at the stars. "My grandfather kept a journal during the war. He wrote about the moment he first saw your ships in battle, how they moved like nothing he had ever seen, how his fleet was destroyed before they could even understand what was happening." Thomas said nothing, letting the alien continue. "He wrote that in that moment he understood something that changed his entire view of the universe. He understood that the galaxy was larger than the Korvax Empire, that there were forces beyond our comprehension, and that true wisdom was knowing when to fight and when to step back. Did he learn that lesson too late? Yes, but his descendants have not forgotten it. Thorn turned to face Thomas. "Humanity has given us a second chance. You could have destroyed us completely. You had every right, but instead you let us survive. You helped us rebuild, and now, 100 years later, we stand here together as not friends perhaps, but something close. We did not spare you out of kindness," Thomas admitted. "We spared you because destruction would have made us no better than the Empire. We defeated. Humanity fights to protect, not to conquer. That is the difference between us and the old Korvax." Thorn nodded slowly. "That difference is why the galaxy follows you now, not because they fear your weapons, though they do fear them, but because they trust that you will not use those weapons unless you must, because they believe in your warnings." Thomas looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, new civilizations were rising. New species were developing technology. New empires were being born. Eventually, some of them would reach for the stars. Eventually, some of them would encounter humanity. And when they did, they would hear the same message that the Korvax had heard 100 years ago. "We come in peace. We seek friendship and cooperation. We will help you grow and explore the universe, but threaten our home, harm our people, or ignore our warnings, and you will face the full power of humanity." That was the lesson of the Great War. That was the truth that every species in the galaxy now understood. Earth's final warning was not just words, it was a promise backed by steel and fire and the unbreakable will of a species that had survived everything the universe had thrown at them, and clear as throat. No one would ever be foolish enough to ignore it. Again, the stars shone down on the balcony, ancient and eternal, as the descendants of warriors stood together. In peace, the galaxy had been changed forever, and humanity stood at its center, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a new era. The war was over, the lesson had been learned, and across 1,000 worlds, 1,000 species whispered the same truth to each other: never cross Earth, never ignore the warning, never forget what humans can do when they have no choice but to fight, because when humanity draws a line, they mean it forever.